here with the founders of the Phat startup, that's Phat, James Lopez and Anthony Frasier. Hey guys.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for being with me.
Thank you for having us.
Diversity in tech is a big deal for me. That's a big deal for me. And when I thought about it, Anthony, you know, I reached out to you immediately. I've been following your story for a long time.
Thank you.
It's intrigued me. And the way I first came to know you was through CNN's Black in America.
Yeah.
And you were headed out to California from Brick City, Jersey.
Yeah.
To basically take a leap of faith.
Yeah.
Tell me about that real quick for people who don't know.
Well, there was an accelerator, the first minority accelerator called Numi Accelerator. It's still around today. And I just, I saw that it was like one day left to apply. I just threw my hat in the ring. I didn't know what would happen. And before you know it, they said, can you come out to California? Yeah, and by the way, CNN is profiling all the founders. So, I was a little nervous, but, look, I had to do something with my life, so I just went out on the leap and did it.
I mean, you'd be a little nervous to find out like, oh, I'm going out here, and by the way, I'm going to be on CNN too.
Yeah, that's not what I signed up for.
Yeah.
I didn't sign up for, a lot of people, they looked at the show and they was like, oh, how did you get on CNN and things like that. It's not, I wasn't trying to be on CNN. I wasn't trying to be famous. I was just trying to figure out a way to get into the tech industry.
And how were you doing that? What were you bringing out there?
I had an app called Play, which was a mobile app. It was like Foursquare for video games, so you can check in, earn rewards for buying games on the first day. So we were like a check-in / loyalty system for video games.
Okay. My husband is a deep gamer, so okay. I'm staying with you. But it sounds.
Well, a lot of gamers, GameStop makes about almost billions of dollars a year off of used games. And the thing is, when you do used games, a lot of the publishers don't get any money. So GameStop gets all the money from a used game.
Yeah.
So my app was just it wasn't to solve the problem, but it was to stop the bleeding a little bit, and encourage a lot more gamers to earn rewards by buying games new. Yeah. And they can prove that they bought it by scanning it on the phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Innovative.
Thank you.
How'd you come up with it?
Foursquare. I looked at, how Foursquare was helping a lot of small businesses. So I just wanted to use a model that was already working and apply it to gaming. I had already had a gaming site called The Coalition that's still up today. And I just wanted to use the knowledge that I gained from being a journalist in the gaming industry and try to leverage that for something else. That's all.
Anthony, there's a lot of passion when you talk about tech and video gaming. How did you get involved in it? Yeah,
so there was an entrepreneur named CJ Peters who had a gaming company, and with his gaming company, he was making money. He was making a living. I was working at Kmart at the time, and I was like, well, I got a gaming site, but I'm not living off of this thing. And just being able to travel and see what he was doing and see that he was able to feed his family, making a company that was based in gaming, I was like, I got to figure something out.
That is kind of a big deal. And you talk about having seen someone, because a lot of kids, they see basketball players, they see football. That's what they see. So you were kind of emulating what you saw.
Well, yeah. I mean, So precisely, a lot of people, sports, entertainment, so I just wanted to figure out who I can, they say success leaves clues, right? So I just wanted to figure out clues.
James, tell me, how did the Phat startup happen?
It started out because one of our friends named Frank Dembo was working with a startup weekend, which is a boot camp for entrepreneurs, a 3-day boot camp. And he asked us if we could co-organize an event with him, which was geared towards music and video games. So we jumped in it and we said, yes, we'll do it. While we were there, we were talking to other entrepreneurs, and we realized that everybody there was really inspired by hip hop. All of these different races were there, and they were talking about hip hop and how they use the hip hop swag or genre to use it towards business, like some of the lessons. And we just realized that there was more people out there like us. We loved hip hop, loved tech. Why not form a community around it?
Okay.
And when we formed that community, it just morphed into more because people started asking us for education.
Okay.
And we provided that education.
So the Phat startup is, in one sentence,
Pretty much a media company
Okay.
that provides resources for aspiring tech entrepreneurs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's how it came to be, and this is what it is.
It didn't start
Okay.
like that. you
Okay,
know.
it didn't start like that.
Nah,
No.
it just started like he said, a lot of people were like, oh, you like hip hop, you like
Yeah.
this. The thing is, we were building a community, but we didn't know what to deliver that community. And we did a lot of different things to figure out what was working,
Okay.
what was not working. And even to this day, we experiment a little bit on what works, what doesn't work, in order to educate the community, but also build a business around this community as well.
Okay.
Yeah, at first it was all community driven. Like, how do we get more people that look like us to talk about the things that they do? Mm-hmm. And we just found that common thread to be hip hop.
Hip hop and tech.
Yeah.
So what do these people talk about? How do they interact together?
The main interaction point is through our events. We do have an online community that people can email us. They can join our email list, but the magic usually happens when they come and they go to one of our events. They're usually there to hear from a proven entrepreneur speaker, but it's really, the magic really happens when they start shaking each other's hands next to each other, because you never know who that person might be. Mm-hmm. So that's really how they mainly react at our conferences and at our events.
Yeah, and the conversations vary. Like, it could go from them talking about a new Jay-Z album to Jay-Z building Tidal, and what are the correlations. So it varies on that, but it's usually about entrepreneurship and how can we help each other. I don't know how to use Twitter. Can you help me set up the strategy behind it? And somebody will come in and actually do that.
Is that what you guys think about when you think of like sky's the limit now, like the Dre situation?
Definitely. Dre provides that. When he came out and he sold his, he provided a good example that people that look like us can build a technology product and succeed. And I think that's a great example.
Well, to us, it's always sky's the limit. Because when we look back now, we didn't expect to be here. Like, where we come from, it's usually the corner, right? Or you're gonna get a job and that's about it. To go from food stamps to be sitting here and traveling the world to educate our culture, that's kind of incredible. Yeah. So sky's always the limit.
And I think even the similar situation with Dre. I mean, probably did not expect that this is where he may end up. I mean, maybe he had big dreams, but to this level.
Yeah.
Anthony, you hit the nail on the head. A black entrepreneur, being able to do what he's doing, and being an example. When I think of tech, when a lot of people think of tech, you think Steve Jobs, you think Mark Zuckerberg, you know what I mean? You think Tim Cook now,
trust
but
fund.
You don't, right, your trust fund, Bill Gates, but you don't necessarily think Dr. Dre.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So why are there not more minorities, you guys? I'm looking at a Hispanic, a Latina, and I'm looking at an African American. Why are there not more?
The reason why I feel like a lot of minorities aren't in tech is because, I think the story is that a lot of these young people who aren't minorities, they were coding very young because it was a fun activity to do. It was something fun. I want to figure out how to change this and how to do this, and I want to make a game. A lot of the young people from where I'm from, that's not a fun activity. The fun activity was, I want to get on the mic, I want to create a mixtape, I want to do this. So now those interests are changing because the world is turning into software. So we're going to slowly but surely see a lot of young people get into tech now, not just because they're told if they want to get a job in the future that is something that they want to do, that they have to do, but because they enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, there's not enough of us there now to provide guidance.
Okay.
Right. So when you think about an African American or a Puerto Rican, you're thinking about sports.
Yeah.
Right? You're thinking about the dealer on the streets. Like, those are the people that a lot of us grow up looking at, right, and looking up to. So we don't have Mark Zuckerbergs that are black or Hispanic.
Right.
So if we get some more of those, if we get some people to get some big wins outside of Dre, then maybe we'll get more people more involved. Because Dre is not purely tech, right?
Yeah,
He's not
right,
a coder.
absolutely.
So we need somebody to build the next Facebook that's of color.
Yeah.
And then it'll look cool again.
Anthony, you said something that was really interesting, that the world is becoming software.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I mean, everything is going to be software controlled. Pretty much technology is taking over. So, everything that used to be done physically by hand is being replaced. I went to the DMV the other day, and you can just stand in line, do everything through a small computer. You don't really have to deal with a person anymore. Mm-hmm. That's where the world is going. So naturally, everything will be shifted that way. So a lot of kids, if they're growing up in a world like this, then it's almost like no choice but to adapt. It's evolution. It's going to happen.
Thank you so much, James. I'm loving this conversation. Anthony, you said you're going to stick around for a bit.
I'll stick around.
Okay, we're going to continue this conversation. Diversity in tech.
That's right.
Is right here. That startup
all the way.
is right here. So we'll be right back with our panel. We love this diversity in tech conversation so much that we are back with our panel. Anthony Frasier said he was going to stick around, so here he is.
I'm back.
Thanks for sticking with us, Anthony, co-founder of the Phat startup.
That's right.
Minda Aguhob, who is a tech CEO, and one of my favorites, digital influencer Mike Street, who has founded Smart Brown Voices. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys know that I feel this conversation is so important. Diversity in tech. Anthony, we've already gotten deep into it with what you're doing. Minda, I felt it's so necessary for you to be here as a minority brown woman who is a tech CEO. Mike, you know I feel that you have curated the conversation about tech, specifically minorities in tech, so well, and I just knew you had to be here. So, okay, let's just get into it. Why aren't there more of us at the table, at the tech table?
Well, I can start. I think it's I think it's a lot of it has to do with, media attention around this topic. Like for me, the reason I started Smart Brown Voices because I feel like there's just not enough attention being brought to the issue of like diversity and now it's like time to take action. And, people need to, put programs in place and say, hey, this is how we start a pipeline from, literally from middle schools, on up to college and then beyond. And we have to reach out to Black churches and our whole community to really, start to solve this issue. Because it can't be one organization or one thing.
Absolutely.
It's got to be a collective, and it can't just be Black people trying to focus on this issue. It's got to be, all brown people. And that's why I call the podcast Smart Brown Voices, because, we're all, hues of brown at some degree.
That's right.
And we have to be in this together. It also has to be a focus on LGBT. It has to be a focus on women. It's got to be something that we all, lock arms and put our brains to the ground and figure out.
Well, you've gotten us off to a great start, first and foremost. That's why I knew you needed to be here, because you have such deep knowledge, such deep understanding, but you are on the ground floor. What do they say? What are these companies saying when somebody kind of puts the microphone in their face and says, hey, why do you only have 2 people of color here? What's their response?
Keep it 100, like what we love to say in our community. Like a lot of them say that they can't find other qualified brown people to work at their organizations, and I always say that's a lie, because I run Blacks in Tech in New York City. I can give you 2,000 qualified people right now that I even have their resumes that I can hand them right to you and give you qualified people to actually come and work at your organization. So we have to hold these companies accountable. What has to happen is like we have to really think outside of the box and think outside of the circle. The reason that is the way it is now is because when we recruit for jobs in particular, you're going to your programmer who's white at the company, and he's going to all of his homeboys who he went to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and you keep getting the same exact people coming into the company. You have to expand the circle out of that and say, let's go to National Black MBA Conference and find recruiters.
Yes. Let's
actually go to Morehouse, which graduates the most Black engineers, or Howard, and get engineers from there to work at these companies. And why they're not doing that, I don't know.
But it's what you said. It's thinking outside of the box. And if you don't have someone to tap you on the shoulder sometimes, or if that's just not second nature, if that's not going to be the firm culture, that's not something that you would think about. And so then you have someone like a Jesse Jackson who's got to come in and say, hey, by the way, you need to look here. And then I'm sure some people are even shocked. They think, hey, there's 2 guys in here. What do you mean? We've got, a couple people here,
Exactly.
Because that's what either is filling a quota, or they feel like they've done something. But we know in the big scheme of things, that's barely making a dent.
On the other side, diversity is really key. So there's a really great book that just came out by the person who leads Google's people operations, or HR. And he talks about how diversity is key for bringing out great ideas. Because in a diverse community, people can feel safe. Everyone can feel free to speak and share amazing breakthroughs that they may be thinking of and may hold to themselves if they don't feel safe. So it's also really good business from an operational point of view. It's key.
Yeah.
It's actually what makes really great companies do the things they do. That's something that's really important to consider. You know, and I actually come from a psychology background, so I really understand that looking at diverse viewpoints, understanding perspectives from other points of view is actually a powerful skill. It helps people to mediate conflict well. And if you can do that in a company and train your people right from the ground floor, you are building a culture that is guaranteeing success.
That's groundbreaking for some people. That's a perspective shift. That's a mind shift.
Absolutely. And there's something about being in an all-women's tech founder environment that brings out issues and perspectives you would never have thought of. I was at a showcase, Panasonic Lab 1.0, where my company was being presented. And we were wearing these little networking devices. And I walked up to a woman and I just smiled at her and said, "Hi." And as it turns out, we really deeply connected. And she was a young Asian woman. And she felt like a friend. So it's not just, you know, our trying to relate to people who are not like us. You know, we're looking for people who are like us.
Who are like us. Wow.
You know, and it's an unconscious thing. It happens. It's in human nature.
The other side of diversity. We are all different, so we all need to be represented, but at the same time, you're looking for someone who looks like you. Minda, what does it mean to be a minority woman tech CEO?
I have to tell you, it kicks ass. I love it.
That's a way to put it.
Yeah. So, you know, the way I see it, it's the story you create about yourself that makes you successful wherever you are. And if you go into Silicon Valley or Silicon Alley and think the whole world is against me because I'm this or that, the world's going to respond to you that way. Now, there are specific reasons that people may not want to, you know, give you a chance they might give somebody else, but your experience of it makes a huge difference. It really does. And I'll tell you, I've met some amazing people who really supported me and other people like me, because I think there is there's a movement or there's some consciousness happening that this really needs to change. Again, referring earlier to what I said about how diversity makes people safe. When you're diverse, it's also a matter of making other people feel safe too. You know, if you're always on the defense, people are not going to feel safe around you.
So it's also, I mean, it's your perspective. It's what you bring to the table,
It's both. It goes both ways. Now, I absolutely think that the leaders of these companies need to get their stuff in gear and bring in diversity. It's their responsibility. If they want to have a successful company, and if they want to find a cutting edge that wasn't there, you've got to take this in. Otherwise, you're really being irresponsible.
The pipeline within, like, you know, young kids, it's in all over. So I guess right now there are programs, there are people fighting for these to solve these problems. So I'm pretty optimistic. I mean, I don't know about, you know, how anyone else feels, but I'm pretty optimistic about where it is now versus where, you know, it was in 2011 even. So I think in a few years we're going to start to see more women. We're going to start to see more African Americans, more minorities, more diversity in startups, because it's being put in the spotlight right now.
Minda, just let us know, what is Peakfoqus?
Peakfoqus, my company, is designing elegant wearable technology for senior health and safety monitoring.
Is that what you have on today?
It is.
That's beautiful, actually.
Here it is.
That's pretty fly.
Thanks. I think so too.
Especially when I think about the senior community, that's pretty nice for them.
Our awesome designer, Andy, who was at MIT Media Lab, he researched the fonts of that era, of our Mad Men generation that are now seniors.
Nice.
Yeah.
This is the part I like to call the speed round. And the speed round is where I give you guys a word or a phrase, and you go back and forth until I say stop. first thing that comes to your mind is what you're going to give me. You guys ready? Diversity.
Love.
Ideas.
Art.
Power.
Perspective taking.
Change.
The future.
Thank you guys so much for being a part of this conversation. We all know how important diversity is, how important it is in the tech space, but now we are letting everybody else know how important it is and that it's coming and that it's a good thing. So thank you for joining us.
We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. Our babies will walk hand in hand. Celebrate day for deep in my heart. I still believe that our babies will walk hand in hand someday.